perfectly right back. Okay. All right, we're going to get started. Everybody has a copy of the agenda for them. If they don't, we'll get it over to you now. There should be copies everywhere for everybody. So we're going to start off with a roll call of directors, and we'll start at the far end with Marlo.
Marlo Courtney, Sven Oakland.
Someone's sitting here.
Gabrielle, yeah,
Leslie Sharp.
Warner.
Hold on.
David Sherritt.
Alan Garcia.
And Don is the executive director.
Okay, in your packets, you have minutes from our last regularly scheduled board meeting on February 19th. So if you could please take a moment to go through those minutes. And in the meantime, Manny, if you want to walk us through any key portions.
So on page 6, we're scheduled to meet with the Omni CRA next week to discuss what we can do in tandem for homelessness. As speaking today to Anthony over at the office, they had stated that the Omni is seeking security proposals for security companies, so they could possibly put around that southeastern quadrant to allow for the safety and the facilitation of pedestrians and the safety among the homeless community themselves. So they've got like 4 quotes. They're still evaluating them, so that's going to be an option that we could overlay to whatever we do. And then we've also been working. We reached out to Wynwood 250 in regards to the waste dispensers for pets. So this is just something that always happens in Copeland Grove. The same thing happened with the buildings there. All we ask for is for the private property developers, to work in tandem with the residents to find locations where they could put pet waste, dispensers, either entryways or somewhere within private property. If you put it on a public sidewalk, it's going to be very hard to permit. So we gave them some options, and they're working on it, and they've been already aware of it. So we're just getting on top of that one. And then that's about it that's going on right now.
Okay.
I have one note.
Yes, sir.
On the comment for me. I asked hypothetically how the Wynwood board would remove swarm from operating within Wynwood.
Copy.
Are there any other comments on the minutes or questions for Manny?
I just wanted to mention that I was on Manny's cell phone during the meeting, listening to all of the comments and listening to the meeting.
Yep, you're on there on the phone, page 1. Minutes.
Page 1.
Yeah. Any other comments on the minutes? Okay, motion to approve the minutes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Second by Sven. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say nay. Minutes approved. All right. So we're going to go right into public comments. Before we do so, I just want to remind everybody, if anybody wants to speak, please start off with your name, the business or the property that you may own or represent in the neighborhood. And if it's not within the neighborhood, just your address would suffice. We're going to try to keep comments to less than 2 minutes. Of course, there may be other opportunities later on the agenda, but this is now here for anybody who would like to be heard. This is your opportunity to present anything you'd like to the board. Just raise your hand, we'll call upon you. If there are no public comments, we will close the portion of the agenda for public comments. Going once, going twice. All right, no public comments. We're moving over to the executive director report. Manny, the floor is yours.
And I'll be brief. We got a public records request from Open the Books. It's basically an organization that seeks for the total number of employees and what they make. It's a transparency, United States-wide site. So we comply to that on 310. Just so you know, any board members that have not attended ethics training, the next one is scheduled for April 6, 2020 I'll send over a copy of the notice for everybody on the board. My staff and myself are scheduled to attend, since I haven't done it in 10 years. Hot dogs, we committed to 300 hot dogs again for the Easter celebrations at Roberto Clemente Park. This is one of our many initiatives that we do to try to help the community. So last year was our first time doing it, and we committed to it again. And thank you, Tanya Brown, for making this happen. Just for the record, still have not gotten any acknowledgement from the city. Just want to make that point in regards to my whistleblower protection. I've said 2, and I still have not gotten any word, so I just want to make sure that's on the record. We're working with Miami Parking Authority on Uber drop-offs. They met in our office yesterday with PD and Lyft. And what we're going to do is right now, you'll see some Uber drop-offs on 2nd Avenue that the Miami Parking Authority inserted just for drop-off to try to keep 2nd Avenue moving. But now Uber's going to also assist us because they're going to bring in their statistics of pickups and where they happen to add to the Miami Parking Authority site. So we're scheduled to meet again in another week. And then we're working with the home show organizer, with Adam. We talk to him daily. He's concerned because he doesn't know, what the city's going to do in regards to the virus or any preventive measures. He was reaching out to the special events department and other departments, and no one answers. So of course they come to us for help. So we bridged him with Art Noriega to the highest level at the city to see if they could brief him on anything, because you could imagine putting that much money into an event and then finding out a week ahead that the city's going to go ahead and do a preemptive slows. That's what we're trying to avoid. So that's just something that we're doing on the high end, and that's about it.
Thank you, Manny. Is Commander
Kerr is at an 11 meeting.
Okay.
I think the Sergeant Michael Diaderes is coming in to give a briefing on his behalf.
So when he comes in, we'll just pause where we're at and we'll get the security update. Alexander, you want to give us an operations update?
There were 0 instances of illegal dumping reported since the last board meeting on February 19th. Happy to report that the illegal dumping hotspot on 2311 Northwest 2nd Avenue has been partially addressed, thanks largely in part to efforts from Solid Waste, Wynwood and Wynwood Police. As the board will see within their packet, there's a couple of Clean Flex reports from for January and February 2020, and the reports will show that there's been a dramatic increase in usage of the waste containers. Overflowing of the waste containers during the weekends are still a very present concern, and they will be talking with Solid Waste to better address this issue. Solid Waste will also be surveying the southeast quadrant of Wynwood for the placement of public waste containers to try and mitigate trash concerns in that area. As far as homeless outreach, there was an emergency Wynwood homeless outreach and cleanup on March 10th, yesterday. And as per usual, they created a map of known homeless encampments to ensure that all areas of concern were addressed. We're in the process of coordinating for another outreach and cleanup for April. And within your packets, you will see the operations committee meeting minutes when we met on February 5th to discuss various matters within Wynwood. On a very positive note, I received informal confirmation from FPL liaison to Miami-Dade County for an imminent commencement of a countywide LED retrofit initiative. I was told there was going to be over 7,000 streetlights that are planned to be addressed, and Wynwood will actually be one of the very first. We're at the top of the list. As per the...
So Alexander, just to clarify, the retrofit on city roads, this is for county roads?
Yes, this is for county roads. We've already had the vast majority of existing streetlights within the city right of way already retrofitted with LEDs, with the participation of City of Miami Public Works and FPL. We're very grateful for that, and we're happy to hear that county is proposed from East Main Capital on 2400 and 2500 North Miami Avenue. You can look in there for more information. And let's see, we're still working with Public Works concerning utility contractors, Hotwire, Crown Castle, Mastag, to address and fully restore the public right-of-way of the remaining sites associated with the 5G installation for Super Bowl 2020. There's still a lot of areas that need to be patched, and we're actively working to get them. And finally, we met with Public Works and Bronson Construction to basically open up the pedestrian right-of-way surrounding the former Wynwood Park development on 26 Northwest 2nd Avenue. And the remaining structures, it used to be planned for an adaptive reuse project due to an activity and that it was causing a pedestrian concern. We talked with them and they had it sent back immediately, so we're very happy about that it was not addressed. And that'll be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. All right, moving on to marketing. We have several updates. We're going to require the projector to come down, so while Chris works on that, I'm going to ask Kelly to give the PR code.
Sure. So just really quickly, as always, our update report is included in the board members packet, but we've been working on several initiatives. First and foremost is just supporting the bids work and managing the neighborhood issues on permitting and the noise ordinance. We've done extensive media outreach around that effort, starting with the last board meeting where the mayor came, and we've worked with all local and regional media on that. On the proactive front, we've also just recently landed an El Mexico piece that included Wynwood as a destination to visit in Miami. And we're also currently working with BuzzFeed on an upcoming travel piece that they're working on. We're bringing them to Wynwood, and we'll be setting up that itinerary. And also with the Arlo Hotel folks, they're coordinating a press trip to Wynwood also. So we're working on an itinerary for those reporters on places they should include. On the annual report, I'm sure Albert will talk through that, but we have been supporting the team on that, coordinating the creation of it and helping with the content as well as design. And just really quickly on the issue management front, we also work very closely with the Wynwood Bid internal team to really just track media surrounding the Cush homicide that unfortunately took place. Making sure we knew the news coverage that was being generated, that nothing was being misstated about Wynwood and the bid for that matter. And we also developed a holding statement from the bid just in case we were to get any calls for reaction to what happened, which we didn't. But we were working again closely with the Wynwood bid team throughout that. Just looking forward, we are getting ready for the commercial real estate market report release. We have ideas on a strategy for the rollout of that, and we'll be looking to be very proactive in promoting it and generating media both when it's released and just in the months after that. So that's really it for us. Open to any questions or comments.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, so we're really excited about several marketing initiatives that we've been kind of working on for the last several months, if not the last year. The first of which is a beautiful update to our website. So board members, if you look behind over your shoulder, you're going to see the new WynwoodMiami.com homepage. This is already live. It is optimized both for desktop and mobile devices. As many of you know, we did commission videography and photography as we do every year around Art Week. So you're seeing for the first time real vivid video on our homepage, as well as a streamlined interface for the latest news, followed by our business directory, and the businesses that are featured here are automatically refreshed every single time, so everybody gets equal love on the homepage. And then you have the most recent upcoming events, which are listed here. And at the footer, you have a live feed from our Wynwood Miami Instagram channel. Obviously, if you click on any of these sections, so for example, Chris, if you don't mind clicking on the events see all, that'll take you as well to a new events calendar interface that was created as part of the refresh for the website. And if you could just scroll down, Chris, it just kind of shows the breadth of all the events that are happening in the neighborhood. These are all obviously today, on March 11th, and it's in chronological order. You can search by venue, by type of event, lots of different filters, very user-friendly. Looks just as great on your mobile devices as it does here on the desktop perspective. Chris, if you can scroll back up and just go to the About Us Reports section. I do want to show everybody, we're making fine things that we talk about routinely. Whenever you hear us say, hey, the new annual report is on the website, or the new streetscape, or the market report, Chris, if you could just scroll down, you're going to find all of these things here. So this is kind of the behind-the-scenes Wynwood bid activity, but really the website is optimized for our visitors, for tourists, for end consumers, but it's just as friendly, obviously, for business owners. And there's lots of resources here. If you didn't already, take the time. We encourage you to do so if you're a business owner. There's lots of links and information here to help you navigate how to get a business started, and obviously once you're open, how to continue to operate within the city of Miami. So I want to thank Chris, who's been working very closely with our web team, as well as Kivit, for having originally designed the website. And if you could just take us back to the homepage and just leave it there, Chris, I would appreciate that. So that is, that's wynwoodmiami.com. And all the content, all the event listings, the business directory, one of the beauties of the website, it's really user content. It's driven by the businesses themselves. They each have a profile on the website, and they get to push not just their own directory listing, but events that they may be hosting, promotions they may be having, a variety of different ways to push information onto the website. So it really does, I think, become a very effective tool. This is also the most visited website when anybody Googles Wynwood. This is the first thing that shows up. So we're very proud of that, obviously, and this is really a resource for all of you here that have businesses in the neighborhood. Next up is another annual tradition that we just completed, which is the issuance of our annual report. So Chris is going to show you on the screen. The board members have a physical copy. They literally were just delivered last night. They're beautiful, but more importantly, they really do capture the comprehensive and vast accomplishments of the organization over the last year. I'm just going to quickly go through this, and Chris is going to follow along. On page 4, you have our economic impact. This really speaks to the economic engine that Wynwood drives, not just for the city of Miami, but for the South Florida economy. But on this screen here in particular, you're seeing how our expenses are allocated. On the bottom of the page, you're going to see some statistics. Last year, we welcomed over 4 million annual visitors, over $500 million in spending from tourists. We have close to 1,700 residents now living full-time in the neighborhood, and between all of our businesses in the community, over 5,000 jobs are supported. As the neighborhood continues to grow, we also, of course, contribute to the city and the county and the state in the form of taxes, as well as in parking transactions. For example, here you can see kind of the continued upward trend year over year. Last year, we had over 1.5 million parking transactions, and those are the ones, of course, that people pay to park. That doesn't capture the people that perhaps aren't paying for parking. Not that we're promoting that, of course. If you go over to page 9, Chris, you're going to check out the Wynwood Market Report. This is kind of a preview of what's to come. Kelly alluded to this companion report that we're working on. And this summarizes, as of the end of 2019, what the pipeline looked like for development. So you have office under construction and planned, retail, as well as apartment units and hotel rooms, because hotels are finally under construction and coming. And we're excited about that element to support the vibrancy of the neighborhood. Throughout the rest of the booklet, you're going to see some some highlights as far as our community engagement, variety of events that we have supported as an organization throughout the year, right through up to our sanitation initiatives, the things that our operations committee takes care of. And then we get into security, district-wide lighting improvements, security cameras, things that, of course, those of you that come to these meetings have heard us talk about and working on. If you go to page 25, Chris, on the slide there, you can see everybody, the improvements by the numbers. I think these are pretty important to kind of highlight quickly. Over the last year, 41 potholes were reported, 6 sidewalk repair locations were also reported and addressed, 310 street lights were retrofitted with LED bulbs, 52 trash cans installed in the neighborhood, and so on and so on. You can see the stats there behind you on the screen and in the book. So that's really driven by Alexander and the operations committee, so we're very proud of that accomplishment. And then as you continue to scroll through, we're going to see our master planning initiatives, our streetscape, and the wharfs that we're obviously very excited about, and our tri-rail station initiative to bring a station to Wynwood Edgewater area. At the end, our financial budgetary recap schedule, and then of course in the back you have kind of the yearbook moment where all of your beautiful portraits, board members and staff are in the book. This is a great resource, I think, for both current businesses, prospective businesses. The bid obviously offers a tremendous value add, we believe, to the continued progress of the community. So if you're interested in getting a physical copy, feel free to swing by the Wynwood bid office. We do have printed copies available, and you can always download a digital copy off of wynwoodmiami.com, as well as find all the previous annual reports going back now several years. So I want to thank Kevin, I want to thank Christopher, Manny, and Alexander for helping compiling all of this, and I want to absolutely recognize the board for their leadership and support of all of these initiatives. Obviously, we could not have done this without each and every single one of you and your support. Also, you're going to find a copy of the City of Miami annual report. I want to say they definitely took a page out of our book. They didn't used to do this. I think they were very impressed by our annual report. So I'm happy to see that they're now producing a physical report. It's very similar in format to ours. I don't think that's a coincidence. But I think it's a great resource as well to come up to appreciate what our elected officials and what our city government has been working on over the last year. So we each have a copy of that annual report. And of course, you can find more on that at miamigov.com. So that really does cover it for marketing. Things that we're just working on now that we're about to complete is a documentary series profiling several businesses, our media advertising campaign, which we'll be talking about more at the next month's meeting. And if there's any questions about marketing, at any time you can always reach out to Chris. And Chris, I just want to give you an opportunity. If anything else you want to add for the report before we wrap up our marketing.
You can find details on that on our website very soon. So that's it.
Board members, do you like the annual report? How does it look?
Magnificent. It is a great piece of work.
Leslie, do you like it? Yes. Okay, that's good. She's an important comment. All right, cool. All right, well, we appreciate your support. Thank you for that. And that's it for marketing. So I'm going to hand it over to Manny to walk us through finance.
So, Ricky Kandok couldn't come today. He's going to be the auditor that's going to provide us the audit. Just so you guys know, within your package, you're going to see a subsequent audit for 2020. So basically what happens is the city now begins a subsequent audit for the months after the closing of the fiscal year, which is October, September 30th. So right now, this is the engagement letter. We're providing him all the material, meeting minutes and packets, and then at the next meeting, you give us an update on the subsequent and on the successful audit that we had. Another initiative that we're bringing up from the past, the CRIP, is the parking trust fund application. So in 2011, in Coconut Grove, parking trust fund, we were having issues collecting. We were collecting, I think, about $90,000 a year. And we worked with Barnaby, we worked with the city to formalize an application, a process, and the collections went up to about $350,000 per year. just on efficiency. So what happens here in Wynwood is when we look at the parking trust fund, the language states that the improvement trust fund check could come at any of the 3 points of permitting, the 3 stages. And what happens is it makes it harder for us to coordinate with the city when that trust fund check is due. So we've been working with David, the zoning department, and everyone trying to copy the successful things that have worked in the past. And attached, you're going to find the modified parking trust fund application. It's at zoning now. It gives you steps on where to go, what numbers to go to, the signature, so it's a little more clear out to give everybody a fighting chance as they go through the MRC. Also, you're going to find from Greenberg Quarry, we just got a check from the CIM group, which is 2201 North Miami Avenue, for about $1.6 million. This is for the Public Benefit Trust Fund. So the Wynwood bid and the city both take allocations of that money, and that's used for us to help with low-income housing within the district, to help supplement or donate or whatever with any projects within the area. Just as of last board meeting, we had the final signatory sign on the board. So the intent is that that money is now going to earn interest on our behalf while the city waits to create a board to oversee the expenditures. So that's just another way for us to make a little more extra money. And then on your financial report, as of right now, bid assessment wise, we've collected almost 4,000 over. Parking waivers, we've yet to collect any funds for the year. Public Benefit Trust Fund, we just got a check for 1.6. It's not referenced within your consolidated statements of February 29th. So it's still at 0. Other income, we gained $323 off our income bank account revenue generating for the month. So for the year, right now, in regards to revenues, we're over about $4,000. When it comes down to expenses, we're under budget about 117,000. A lot of these things have to do with timing. A lot of these things have to do with the sequence and the month that it's going to happen. But the most importantly, what you're going to see is in the general and administrative, there's an overage of 48,000. But when you look over at the solid waste, there's a negative of 32, and that's because we still have 2 cleaners that are treated as official office employees. And we've been working with the city to try to figure out with their labor department how we could work to remedy this in a way that's beneficial for both parties, because right now they're allocated and the other cleaners are allocated in a different way. So that's a review of basically what we've had for the month. When it comes down to assessments, right now we're due $629,000 in total from 2014 to 2020. As of this year, there's $325,000 outstanding. Please note that assessments are due at the end of this month. In the case that someone does not pay and they're on the board, your board privileges are revoked until you come into payment compliance. So you won't be able to vote, you'll be able to sit and watch the view, but that's about it. So just giving a heads up to the board members, in case I don't know who's paid or not, I'll give you guys a ring once I check. And then that's everything else that's within the finance update. You're going to find the details of the agent reports and who owes and who doesn't within the final pages. And that's about everything I have.
Thank you, Manny. I know that Commander Kerr's not here, but you've been so gracious to join us. Do you want to give a quick recap on security?
Yeah, if Manny's on his way, could you defer it?
Sure, absolutely. We'd be happy to do that. So just moving on, I'm going to move over to Capital Regulatory Committee update really quickly. David Snow is here. He's going to provide us a brief update on the streetscape and tree master plan and one initiatives.
Thanks, Howard. So yeah, right now we've essentially completed the design guidelines for the Wynwood Streetscape Master Plan. And at this point, we're ready to present those to the board. We've at this time given those documents, actually reminding me that I still have this in the Dropbox link, so I'm sending that to him so that he has that, he can distribute that to the members. In addition to that, we also want to present the implementation plan that the city's been putting together regarding this application. So I think we're all really excited about what this master plan can do for the community, but we also need to look at the details as far as implementation, funding mechanisms, what an operation and maintenance costs look like, and what in comparing to other neighborhoods that are similar to this. So we are hoping to present that at the next bid of our meeting. Right now, we're hoping to be at the planning board with this document in May. That's what our target date is, and we think that's pretty realistic. In regards to the Northwest 3rd Ave Wynwood, that's going on a little bit of a different trajectory. We don't need that to be essentially adopted by the commission right now. So we actually do have a mechanism in our contract, our existing contract, to move into construction, or design development and construction drawings with that plan. So what that means is that we now need to get back with our stakeholders for that street, kind of go over those details, also look at implementation strategies with that, looking at funding mechanisms, looking at operation and maintenance and all of those details. So we're planning on scheduling that in the next few weeks with those stakeholders. That's what we got. Thanks.
Any questions for David Snow?
Yeah, one. David, in terms of the Wynwood, does that require any commission approvals coming up in this very near future, or you already have kind of the go-ahead is there to proceed?
The only commission approvals that we would need is if there are additional fundings from the city coming forward for that. So if the city is going to be contributing additional money for the construction drawing or actual construction, then city commission would need to vote and approve that. But moving forward, we can continue to move forward. We don't need to go through another RFQ process for construction drawings.
Thank you.
Any other questions for David?
I thought, it seems like it's delayed again. I mean, we're another month behind. Is that the case? I thought that the idea was that we were going to be, I'm excited to start working on it. So I just thought we were going to be further along. So it's going to be delayed another month.
Yeah, so the regulatory committee has to meet and approve the final set, so we haven't done that yet. So that'll be on our agenda before we come back as a board in April. There's also some other rolling amendments that are still pending, including potential changes to the noise ordinance, to special events, temporary use permits, as they may behave currently or be modified to behave in the future in the NRD. So that's all going to be packaged together as a grand set of amendments to the NRD. So rather than go to the city commission multiple times over the next several months, the opportunity is to try to go there once and be very comprehensive, because a lot of these changes are referencing each other as part of a master set of documents for the NRD. So that is partially what it is, but the city has also used the extra time to make some additional refinements. Obviously, with every passing set of eyes, they pick up on new things that perhaps were not picked up initially. And they're also working on some of the items we discussed at our last committee meeting regarding pedestrian-oriented district language, which we're still working on, and they still have not provided us with a draft of that language, but they are working on that. So, not the crosswalks, this is a classification that applies to the entirety of the NRD, which we talked about at our previous committee meeting. So there's still some things that are core to the streetscape and core to the NRD, separate from the noise, separate from the TUPs, that the city is working on. So they're not just waiting on us, they are making progress, and they're actually making some additional refinements. So the time is not going into waste. Is that right, David? Did I summarize that fairly?
Yep.
So yeah. So we're confident we're literally almost there. I know we've said that before, but we really are almost there. Any other questions for David Snow? Okay. So just moving on to the update from the committee. So the committee met this morning earlier at 9:30 here in this room So if you weren't a part of that conversation, I'm going to give a quick update for the board members that could not join us for that. We had representatives from the Wynwood Restaurant and Bar Association, as well as other business owners and property owners in the neighborhood. There was also representatives here from the City of Manning Planning Department, Zoning Department, in particular, as well as our city attorney, Danny Garcia, was present for that as well. And we have a full quorum of the committee. There is a packet for that committee, which we can make available to you if you'd like to kind of go into the details. And to summarize, the bar and restaurant group retained legal counsel. He is actually seated in the room. If you want to just wave your hands there, Ian. And he is seated next to Philippe, who many of you now know is not just the co-proprietor of El Patio, but he's also the president of the Wynwood Restaurant and Bar Association. Coco is the vice president. You guys know Coco from the Chic, I'm sure. So they've been meeting over the last several days and weeks as well as a group, and they did proffer some recommendations for changes to the noise ordinance that they want to see us support. But they also had some recommendations as well. I'm proud to say we are largely in agreement. We are within a few decibels of certain measures, and we don't want to trivialize the numbers. They're meaningful. They could obviously have a profound effect, perhaps, on the livelihood of these businesses. So we want to be sensitive to their concerns as well as those of residents, which have also expressed concerns. So the committee has agreed to reconvene a week from today. Manny will forward a calendar invite, and a notice will be sent out to all the members confirming the time and place. It will most likely be at Wynwood 25. We'll be hosting the meeting there. And the committee, before it adjourned, agreed that there will be some independent reading done of the ambient noise levels at an apartment unit at Wynwood 25. Leslie volunteered Mr. Mann's unit, but JP volunteered an empty unit so we wouldn't disrupt Mr. Mann. So we appreciated that offer. And of course, we're going to share that data with everybody. And also there's some reports that have been commissioned by the folks at the Ultra Music Festival. We looked at, lots of documents and underlying city ordinances from New York to Chicago to Boston, Los Angeles, to kind of, bring us up to par with what other cities are doing in the present, because our noise ordinance hasn't really been updated in over 30 years. So the goal is, of course, to put forth recommendations for specific guidelines for Wynwood while the city continues to pursue what it wants to do for the rest of the city to not hold us back. So that is the update. Because of sunshine, I also want to just come off and say that Leslie did approach me at the tail end of the committee meeting. She is here today as well as legal counsel from Moish Nana's team there in the corner. Bruce, and I forget his associate's name. Paul. Welcome back, guys. They were at our committee meeting, our board meeting last week as well. And they had a meeting with Art Noriega, the city manager, before the committee wrapped up. And they have indicated to me that they heard from the city manager that they also want to bring all the stakeholders together. So we're going to work through that and figure out if the right forum should continue to be here or at the city manager's office or at some other venue to make sure that all the key people are present, to make sure that we continue to proceed very efficiently and quickly and as robust so that everybody feels they're being heard and we can work through both consensus and move forward. So we will report back to you. If the committee meeting next week has to be rescheduled on account of that, we will obviously let you guys know as well. For the meantime, that's already been set as the next action item for the committee. Because of time, we could not get into a discussion about temporary use permits and special event permits. We obviously spent most of the time talking about noise ordinances. So, that's something that we're obviously going to have to tackle as well, regardless of the Art Noriega meeting. We definitely have to have that conversation. So, that is also going to be on the agenda next week for the committee. Any questions about the committee update?
What day is the committee meeting?
It'll be a week from today. Time will be TBD, most likely 10 a.m., 11 a.m., our typical time. And it'll most likely be at Wynwood 25. Okay? Great.
Can I just add something to that really quick? The only thing that I would say is I know there was a lot of discussion at the committee meeting about decibel levels and those kinds of things. And you mentioned, in your comments a few minutes ago that there has been some look into other entertainment districts or other, New York, et cetera. And I think it's important to note that, this ordinance has been in place for 40 years. And I think that if we're gonna, we wanna, I think pretty much everyone's in agreement that there does need to be some changes. And if we're gonna make changes that, we're in it for the long haul, and that we look to make changes that we know are gonna work for the neighborhood, so that, we take a really good look at what the neighborhood needs for the long term, knowing that it's not just Wynwood 25 that we're looking at, and it's not just one property that we're looking at, it's not, it's what's good for the whole neighborhood, and that we have some science behind it, not just negotiating 5 decibels here, 5 decibels there, what might be a reading of one property, noise travels in waves, and, is different at different times of the day, and those kinds of things. So, I know we all want to get this done expeditiously. I'm 100% on board with that, but I think we should definitely try to get some science behind it and know exactly, what makes sense for the neighborhood as a whole.
I think everybody agrees with that, Leslie. Thank you for that.
I have one thing to add. There's an app called Decibel X, and I'm going to download it, and I'm just going to experiment in the office, my house, walking down the street, because I don't know what is normal. And if anyone on the board wanted to download that and try it themselves, I think what we need, we might have all of us a better understanding of what is the noise. Plus, obviously, the testing, which is critical too, so that we're aware of what is normal.
Sure. I just want to point out, because I'm sure there's an app for that as well. Literally, just remember your phones are not scientifically calibrated the way the professionals that use
But it's better
these
than having
things.
nothing at all.
It's absolutely a great idea to start getting comfortable with the notion of the terminologies and the fluctuations that come about with the noises, 100%. One of the things that we are going to look into is to actually purchase the same unit that Code Compliance uses, or ask Code Compliance to bring such unit to the next meeting so that they can actually demonstrate, for those of you that have never had the privilege of standing in front of a Code Compliance officer in the middle of the night, being told that you're in violation of the noise ordinance, just so everybody here has a common sense of understanding of what is involved on the other side. It's something for us to be talking about decibels, to Leslie's point. It's another thing for enforcement to be carrying out the ladder of whatever changes we propose down the line. So, we just want to make sure we don't all start becoming self-proclaimed sound engineers, because none of us went to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, to sound engineering universities, etc.
Actually,
But,
I do have some experience.
see, I stand corrected. There you go.
Because of my architectural training and licensure, so
There you go.
yeah, and working with the physical consultants.
There you go. So you will be our resident expert.
I'm not saying I'm a resident. I'm simply saying that I think that the app is a decent way to become familiar. I'm not suggesting that I'm going to be doing scientific testing with it.
Perfect.
And I think we should also have some idea, I think there's a different standard also, and we should also, look into getting some education on this, and, we should get some expert opinion on this as well, that there's a difference in what is required from a commercial building standpoint and what's required from a residential building standpoint, as far as what the source of the sound is, where the sound is coming in, and what their building requirements are, or what the building requirements maybe should be, or whatever the case may be, so that we're all working on this together and we all know what to expect in going forward.
Absolutely. So normally I don't open up the floor during discussion, but Alcrest was impatiently raising his hand. So
No, I just think and I agree with Leslie about the fact that you shouldn't just use Wynwood 25. I would also suggest that, since nobody ever talks about these folks, that you all, when you do the sound thing, that you go on the other side of Manna and all those poor black folks who live over there and see what their sound levels are.
I think it's an excellent point, and I appreciate that very much, Al, because they're not.
That's what I'm saying,
Yep.
all our brothers and sisters.
I think that is great advice, and I would encourage our team to make sure we do that. It's been noted, Al.
Well, and Wynwood 25 is not the only residential building, it's the residential building right now, but there's also Wynwood Lofts, and there's also other residential buildings that are going to be built in the future.
Sure, of course.
That, as JP has noted, so
Yeah, I mean, listen,
to measure it by the Wynwood 25 standard doesn't accomplish anything.
We're going to try to gather as much data as we can. I think your point is well taken, Leslie, that data is our friend, and we want to do this scientifically to the best of our ability. The great news is that we're not reinventing the wheel here, so there's a lot of precedent that's out there that also is what cities use all the time, including our city, including how we got to our streetscape master plan and other initiatives that we've looked at as well. We don't invent things in a vacuum. Obviously, there is a lot of, as a lawyer, I'm sure you're familiar with case law. So these are all source materials that we're going to be looking at as well. But I think your point is absolutely accepted. I want to recognize Manny.
Just real quickly, Albert, do you think it would be prudent to add the residential building that is now commercial? I don't know, David Lombardi's.
Wynwood Lofts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's not even residential anymore, and it's zoned residential.
Yeah, there could be some work living there, but absolutely. Yeah, no, listen, I think what we're hearing is we're all in agreement. We don't want to rush into this. We want to make a very informed decision, have an informed process, making sure that we avail ourselves of experts and, all of that. So, I don't want to take up too much more time because this is a discussion. We're going to have a committee meeting.
My office is in Wynwood Lofts. I have a couple of them.
Oh, amazing. So Sven is located at Wynwood Lofts. He is offered to allow us to go in there if you'd like to take some readings as well.
Very nice.
Of course we
When we're doing a pause, I just called someone that I know living at Wynwood 25, just asked her to measure, she's at the only apartment right now to measure without the AC on, she had a reading of 63, and with the AC on, she had a reading of 69. So
Okay.
obviously,
Yeah, great.
we'll do it after
Yeah.
to get another thing, but just to give you a little bit of
Fantastic. Well, that's very helpful. Thank you for moving quickly on that as well. So clearly we're hearing.
Grab t-shirts. What's your sound
Want
level?
to make progress on this. And again, I want to thank the Restaurant and Bar Association. They've been a real pleasure to collaborate with. And I want to salute Philippe and Coco because just creating the organization in itself is a huge accomplishment that I think we're kind of just in the rush to get this fixed, not recognizing because they now have 12 members.
You can find details on that on our website very soon. So that's it.
Board members, do you like the annual report? How does it look?
Magnificent. It really is a great piece of work.
Leslie, do you like it? Yes. Okay, that's good. She's an important. All right, cool. All right, well, we appreciate your support. Thank you for that. And that's it for marketing. So I'm going to hand it over to Manny to walk us through plans.
So, Richie Kandok couldn't come today. He's going to be the auditor that's going to provide us the audit. Just so you guys know, within your package, you're going to see a subsequent audit for 2020. So basically what happens is the city now begins a subsequent audit for the months after the closing of the fiscal year, which is October, September 30th. So right now this is the engagement letter. We're providing him all the material, meeting minutes and packets, and then at the next meeting you give us an update on the subsequent and on the successful audit that we had. Another initiative that we're bringing up from the past, the CRIP, is the parking trust fund application. So in 2011, in Coconut Grove, parking trust fund, we were having issues collecting. We were collecting, I think, about $90,000 a year. And we worked with Barnaby, we worked with the city to formalize an application, a process, and the collections went up to about $350,000 per year, just on efficiency. So what happens here in Wynwood is when we look at the parking trust fund, the language states that the improvement trust fund check could come at any of the 3 points of permitting, the 3 stages. And what happens is it makes it harder for us to coordinate with the city when that trust fund check is due. So we've been working with David, the zoning department, and everyone trying to copy the successful things that have worked in the past. And attached, you're going to find the modified parking trust fund application. It's at zoning now. It gives you steps on where to go, what numbers to go to, the signature, so it's a little more clear out to give everybody a fighting chance as they go through the MRC. Also, you're going to find from Greenberg Quarry, we just got a check from the CIM group, which is 2201 North Miami Avenue, for about $1.6 million. This is for the Public Benefit Trust Fund. So the Wynwood bid and the city both take allocations of that money, and and that's used for us to help with low-income housing within the district, to help, supplement or donate or whatever with any projects within the area. Just as at last board meeting, we had the final signatory sign on the board, so the intent is that that money is now going to earn interest on our behalf while the city waits to create a board to oversee the expenditures. So that's just another way for us to make a little more extra money. And then on your financial report, as of right now, bid assessment wise, we've collected almost 4,000 over. Parking waivers, we've yet to collect any funds for the year. Public benefit trust fund, we just got a check for 1.6. It's not referenced within your consolidated statements of February 29th. So it's still at zero. Other income, we gained $323 off our income bank account revenue generating for the month. So for the year, right now, in regards to revenues, we're over about $4,000. When it comes down to expenses, we're under budget about 117,000. A lot of these things have to do with timing. A lot of these things have to do with the sequence and the month that it's going to happen. But most importantly, what you're going to see is in the general and administrative, there's an overage of 48,000. But when you look over at the solid waste, there's a negative of 32, and that's because we still have 2 cleaners that are treated as official office employees. And we've been working with the city to try to figure out with their labor department how we could work to remedy this in a way that's beneficial for both parties, because right now they're allocated and the other cleaners are allocated in a different way. So that's a review of basically what we've had for the month. When it comes down to assessments, right now we're due $629,000 in total from 2014 to 2020. As of this year, there's $325,000 outstanding. Please note that assessments are due at the end of this month. In the case that someone does not pay and they're on the board, your board privileges are revoked until you come into payment compliance. So you won't be able to vote, you'll be able to sit and watch the view, but that's about it. So just giving a heads up to the board members, in case I don't know who's paid or not, I'll give you guys a ring once I check. And then that's everything else that's within the finance update. You're going to find the details of the agent reports and who owes and who doesn't within the final pages. And that's about everything I have.
Thank you, Manny. I know that Commander Kerr's not here, but you've been so gracious to join us. Do you want to give a quick recap on security?
Yeah, if you may, is on his way to be deferred.
Sure, absolutely. We'd be happy to do that. So just moving on, we're going to move over to Capital Regulatory Committee update really quickly. David Snow is here. He's going to provide us a brief update on the streetscape and tree master plan and one initiatives.
Thanks, Howard. So yeah, right now we've essentially completed the design guidelines for the Wynwood streetscape master plan. And at this point, we're ready to present those to the board. We've at this time given those documents, actually reminded me that I still have the Dropbox link, so I'm sending that to him so that he has that, he can distribute that to the members. In addition to that, we also want to present the implementation plan that the city's been putting together regarding this effort. So I think we're all really excited about what this master plan can do for the community, but we also need to look at the details as far as implementation, funding mechanisms, what an operation and maintenance costs look like, and what in comparing to other neighborhoods that are similar to this. So we are hoping to present that at the next bid board meeting. Right now, we're hoping to be at the planning board with this document in May. That's what our target date is, and we think that's pretty realistic. In regards to the Northwest 3rd Ave North, that's going on a little bit of a different trajectory. We don't need that to be essentially adopted by the commission right now. So we actually do have a mechanism in our contract, our existing contract, to move into into construction, or design development and construction drawings with that plan. So what that means is that we now need to get back with our stakeholders for that street, kind of go over those details, also look at implementation strategies with that, looking at funding mechanisms, looking at operation and maintenance and all of those details. So we're planning on scheduling that in the next few weeks with those stakeholders. That's what we got. Thanks.
Any questions for David Snow?
Yeah, one. David, in terms of the Wynwood, does that require any commission approvals coming up in this very near future, or you already have kind of the go-ahead is there to proceed?
The only commission approvals that we would need is if there are additional fundings from the city coming forward for that. So if the city is going to be contributing additional money for the construction drawing or actual construction, then city commission would need to vote approve that. But moving forward, we can continue to move forward. We don't need to go through another RFQ process for construction drawings.
Thank you.
Any other questions for David?
I thought it seems like it's delayed again. I mean, we're another month behind. Is that the case? I thought that the idea was that we were going to be, I'm excited to start working on it. So I just thought we were going to be further along. So it's going to be delayed another month.
Yeah, so the regulatory committee has to meet and approve the final set, so we haven't done that yet. So that'll be on our agenda before we come back as a board in April. There's also some other rolling amendments that are still pending, including potential changes to the noise ordinance, to special events, temporary use permits, as they may behave currently or be modified to behave in the future in the NRD. So that's all going to be packaged together as a grand set of amendments to the NRD. So rather than go to the city commission multiple times over the next several months, the opportunity is to try to go there once and be very comprehensive, because a lot of these changes are referencing each other as part of a master set of documents for the NRD. So that is partially what it is, but the city has also used the extra time to make some additional refinements. Obviously, with every passing set of eyes, they pick up on new things that perhaps were not picked up initially. And they're also working on some of the items we discussed at our last committee meeting regarding pedestrian-oriented district language, which we're still working on, and they still have not provided us with a draft of that language, but they are working on that.
You're referring to the crosswalks?
Not the crosswalks. This is a classification that applies to the entirety of the NRD, which we talked about at our previous committee meeting. So there's still some things that are core to the streetscape, core to the NRD, separate from the noise, separate from the TUPs, that the city is working on. So they're not just waiting on us, they are making progress, and they're actually making some additional findings. So the time is not going to waste. Is that right, David? Did I summarize that fairly?
Yep.
So yeah. So we're confident we're literally almost there. I know we've said that before, but we really, really are almost there. Any other questions for David Snow? Okay. So just moving on to the update from the committee. So the committee met this morning earlier at 9:30 here in this room. So if you weren't part of that conversation, I'm going to give a quick update for the board members that could not join us for that. We had representatives from the Wynwood Restaurant and Bar Association, as well as other business owners and property owners in the neighborhood. There was also representatives here from the City of Manning Planning Department, Zoning Department, in particular, as well as our city attorney, Danny Garcia, was present for that as well. And we have a full quorum of the committee. There is a packet for that committee, which we can make available to you if you'd like to kind of go into the details. And to summarize, the bar and restaurant group retained legal counsel. He is actually seated in the room. If you want to just wave your hands there, Ian. And he is seated next to Philippe, who many of you now know is not just the co-proprietor of El Patio, but he's also the president of the Wynwood Restaurant and Bar Association. Coco is the vice president. You guys know Coco from the Chic, I'm sure. So they've been meeting over the last several days and weeks as well as a group, and they did proffer some recommendations for changes to the noise ordinance that they want to see us support. The bid also had some recommendations as well. I'm proud to say we are largely in agreement. We are within a few decibels of certain measures, and we don't want to trivialize the numbers. They're meaningful. They could obviously have a profound effect, perhaps, on the livelihood of these businesses. So we want to be sensitive to their concerns as well as those of residents, which have also expressed concerns. So the committee has agreed to reconvene a week from today. Manny will forward a calendar invite, and a notice will be sent out to all the members confirming the time and place. It will most likely be at Wynwood 25. We'll be hosting the meeting there. And the committee, before it adjourned, agreed that there will be some independent reading done of the ambient noise levels at an apartment unit at Wynwood 25. Leslie volunteered Mr. Mann's unit, but JP volunteered an empty unit so we wouldn't disrupt Mr. Mann. So we appreciated that offer. And of course, we're going to share that data with everybody. And also there's some reports that have been commissioned by the folks at the Ultra Music Festival. We looked at, lots of documents and underlying city ordinances from New York to Chicago to Boston, Los Angeles, to kind of, bring us up to par with what other cities are doing in the present, because our noise ordinance hasn't really been updated in over 30 years. So the goal is, of course, to put forth recommendations for specific guidelines for Wynwood while the city continues to pursue what it wants to do for the rest of the city to not hold us back. So that is the update. Because of sunshine, I also want to just come off and say that Leslie did approach me at the tail end of the committee meeting. She is here today as well as legal counsel from Moish Nana's team there in the corner, Bruce, and I forget his associate's name. Paul, welcome back, guys. They were at our committee meeting, our board meeting last week as well. And they had a meeting with Art Noriega, the city manager, before the committee wrapped up. And they have indicated to me that they heard from the city manager that they also want to bring all the stakeholders together. So we're going to work through that and figure out if the right forum should continue to be here or at the city manager's office or at some other venue to make sure that all the key people are present, to make sure that we continue to proceed very efficiently and quickly and as robust so that everybody feels they're being heard and we can work through both consensus and move forward. So we will report back to you. If the committee meeting next week has to be rescheduled on account of that, we will obviously let you guys know as well. For the meantime, that's already been set as the next action item for the committee. Because of time, we could not get into a discussion about temporary use permits and special event permits. We obviously spent most of the time talking about noise ordinances. So, that's something that we're obviously going to have to tackle as well, regardless of the Art Noriega meeting. We definitely have to have that conversation. So, that is also going to be on the agenda next week for the committee. Any questions about the committee update?
What day is the committee meeting?
It'll be a week from today. Time will be TBD, most likely 10 a.m., 11 a.m., our typical time. And it will most likely be at Wynwood 25. Okay? Great.
Can I just add something to that really quick? The only thing that I would say is I know there was a lot of discussion at the committee meeting about decibel levels and those kinds of things. And you mentioned, in your comments a few minutes ago that there has been some look into other entertainment districts or other, New York, etc. And I think it's important to note that, this ordinance has been in place for 40 years. And I think that if we're going to, we want to, I think pretty much everyone's in agreement that there does need to be some changes. And if we're going to make changes that, we're in it for the long haul, and that we look to make changes that we know are going to work for the neighborhood, so that, we take a really good look at what the neighborhood needs for the long term, knowing that it's not just Wynwood 25 that we're looking at, and it's not just one property that we're looking at. It's not, it's what's good for the whole neighborhood, and that we have some science behind it. Not just negotiating 5 decibels here, 5 decibels there. What might be a reading of one property, noise travels in waves, and is different at different times of the day, and those kinds of things. So I know we all want to get this done expeditiously. I'm 100% on board with that, but I think we should definitely try to get some science behind it and know exactly, what makes sense for the neighborhood as a whole.
I think everybody agrees with that, Leslie, thank you for that.
I have one thing to add. There's an app called Decibel X, and I'm going to download it, and I'm just going to experiment in the office, my house, walking down the street, because I don't know what is normal. And if anyone on the board wanted to download that and try it themselves, I think when we meet, we might have all of us a better understanding of what is the noise. Plus, obviously, the testing, which is critical too, so that we're aware of what is normal.
Sure. I just want to point out, because I'm sure there's an app for that as well. Literally, just remember your phones are not scientifically calibrated the way the professionals that use
But it's better
these
than having
things.
nothing at all.
It's absolutely a great idea to start getting comfortable with the notion of the terminologies and the fluctuations that come about with the noises, 100%.
Just
So
let you know
one of
there's
the
an app.
things that we are going to look into is to actually purchase the same unit that code compliance uses, or ask code compliance to bring such unit to the next meeting so that they can actually demonstrate, for those of you that have never had the privilege of standing in front of a code compliance officer in the middle of the night, getting told that you're in violation of the noise ordinance, just so everybody here has a common sense of understanding of what is involved on the other side. It's something for us to be talking about decibels, to Leslie's point. It's another thing for enforcement to be carrying out the ladder of whatever changes we propose down the line. So, we just want to make sure we don't all start becoming self-proclaimed sound engineers, because none of us went to, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, to sound engineering universities, etc.
Actually, I do have some experience.
See, I stand corrected. There you go.
Because of my architectural training and licensure, so
There you go.
yeah, and working with the physical consultants.
There you go. So you will be our resident expert.
I'm not saying I'm a resident. I'm simply saying that I think that the app is a decent way to become familiar. I'm not suggesting that I'm going to be doing scientific testing with my own.
Perfect.
I think we should also have some idea. I think there's a different standard also, and we should also, look into getting some education on this, and, we should get some expert opinion on this as well, that there's a difference in what is required from a commercial building standpoint and what's required from a residential building standpoint, as far as what the source of the sound is, where the sound is coming in, and what their building requirements are, or what the building requirements maybe should be, or whatever the case may be, so that we're all working on this together and we all know what to expect in going forward.
Absolutely. So normally I'd open up the floor during discussion, but Alcrest was impatiently raising his hand. So
No, I just think and I agree with Leslie about the fact that you shouldn't just use Wynwood 25. I would also suggest that, since nobody ever talks about these folks, that you all, when you do the sound thing, that you go on the other side of Manna and all those poor black folks who live over there and see what their sound levels are.
I think that's an excellent point, and I appreciate that very much, Al, because they're not.
That's what I'm saying,
Yep.
all our brothers and sisters.
I think that is great advice, and I would encourage our team to make sure we do that. It's been noted, Al.
Well, then Wynwood 25 is not the only residential building, it's the residential building right now, but there's also Wynwood Lofts, and there's also other residential buildings that are going to be built in the future.
Sure, of course.
That, as JP has noted, so
Yeah, I mean, listen,
to measure it by the Wynwood 25 standard doesn't accomplish anything.
We're going to try to gather as much data as we can. I think your point is well taken, Leslie, that data is our friend, and we want to do this scientifically to the best of our ability. The great news is that we're not reinventing the wheel here, so there's a lot of precedent that's out there that also is what cities use all the time, including our city, including how we got to our streetscape master plan and other initiatives that we've looked at as well. We don't invent things in a vacuum. Obviously, there is a lot of, as a lawyer, I'm sure you're familiar with case law. So these are all source materials that we're going to be looking at as well. But I think your points are absolutely accepted. I want to recognize Manny.
Just real quickly, Albert, do you think it would be prudent to add the residential building that is now commercial? I don't, David Lombardi's.
Wynwood Lofts.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's not even residential anymore, and it's zoned residential.
Yeah, there could be some work done in there, but absolutely. Yeah, but listen, I think what we're hearing is we're all in agreement. We don't want to rush into this. We want to make a very informed decision, have an informed process, making sure that we avail ourselves of experts and, all of that. So I don't want to take up too much more time, because this is a discussion. We're going to have a committee meeting.
My office is in Wynwood Lofts. I know a couple of them.
Oh, amazing. So Sven is located in Wynwood Lofts, and he has offered to allow us to go in there if you'd like to take some readings as well.
Very nice.
Of course we
When we're doing a pause, I just called someone that I know living at 125, just asked her to measure, she's alone in the apartment right now, to measure without the AC on, she had a reading of 63, and with the AC on, she had a reading of 69. So
Okay.
obviously,
Yeah, great.
we'll do it after
Yeah.
to get another thing, but just to give a little bit.
Fantastic. Well, that's very helpful. Thank you for moving quickly on that as well. So clearly we're hearing.
Go have T-shirts. What's your sound
Want
level?
to make progress on this. And again, I want to thank the Restaurant and Bar Association. They've been a real pleasure to collaborate with. And I want to salute Philippe and Coco, because just creating the organization in itself is a huge accomplishment that I think we're kind of just in the rush to get this fixed, not recognizing, because they now have 12 members on the committee update as it speaks to capital and regulatory affairs. Okay, so we're going to move to new business. I believe Sven has an item he wants to address regarding short points.
Kerr is here.
We'll get to him in a minute.
Yeah, so I wanted to introduce my very good friend David Sinopoli. David is the founder of 3 Points Festival, also one of the owners of Space Nightclub. I've worked with him for a very long time. He's been a very good friend for decades. And he really wanted to address the board on some of his concerns of his upcoming festival. Yeah.
Hi, nice to meet you guys, and nice to be here. My name is David, like Sven said. We started our 3 Points Festival in 2013 here in Wynwood at the Mana Properties. We, at the festival, focused on different things than Ultra and other major music festivals did. We focused on art, music, and technology that's from Miami. We have a lineup that for 7 years has been putting 60% of our lineup has been Miami local bands and DJs from this neighborhood and beyond, all the way to South Florida. We do not book anybody from Brooklyn. We do not book anybody from Orlando or Key West. We book from South Florida with our local lineup. We spend about $200,000 on visual art pieces that go into the festival that are also local. Brian Butler's, Eileen's, Strange Ways Collective, Super Chief. We've spent 7 years supporting businesses that are here in Wynwood, like Panther, like Gramps, like Sven, like Mana. We have been here as an event, but not as a local business inside of Wynwood. We come in for 2 to 3 days of the year and spend 362 days planning this festival. The issue that I have that's concerning me is I'm watching from afar a big conflict here in Wynwood that is going to probably impact our festival considerably going forward when it comes to sound, noise, and maybe the development of the city, especially this area. And I come hat in hand because we booked this festival in the summer. Okay, so I put an offer into the Strokes, a really, really large offer into the Strokes to bring them here for the first time in 20 years. And they're scheduled to play at 11:30 p.m. on the main stage. They will finish at 1 a.m. We have another stage that faces west that goes to 3 a.m. with contracts out that have been out for close to 8 months. Changing of code in this year, in our festival, that's happening in 60 days, will drastically cripple us and probably push us to not being able to do the festival. Beyond that, there's probably 150 artists that are from Miami that will have their biggest stage, the biggest moment, the biggest chance in their life to play in front of thousands of people done. And beyond that, we're going to have to look for a new home to go here. The proponents of why we moved to Wynwood in 2013 was because of the art, it's because of developing businesses, because of the people that come here. And we've been really good event organizers. We pull the right permits. We spent $120,000 with police and fire last year because we pulled a permit for 15,000 people. We didn't pull a permit for 3,000 people and then put 10,000 people in there. We've lost money during Zika, during Hurricane Matthew, and we came back. I'm not rich like Ultra or Coachella where I can just move around. This will significantly impact us and then the music community as a whole. We look at Wynwood as our home. We want to look at Wynwood as our home. We want to be good operators, do the right thing with security, with police, with fire, with sound. And if things change and the law changes for next year, and you guys decide on a cohesive law for what Wynwood is next year, I want both the Strokes to play at 1 a.m. I'll book them to play at 9 p.m. We'll move our hours back and we'll be compliant. But the change in law will drastically affect us going forward for the festival that was planned a year ago. So I just bring it up to you guys and say, I know that there's a war of law that's going on here in temporary use permits and special event permits, and we respect that. But we're not here 365 bumping the sound. We're not here pushing the permits to an illegal measure. We're here pulling the right permits, as Commander Kerr probably can vouch for, doing what's right by the community, trying to promote Miami as a whole. And like Leslie said, I think that this neighborhood is fantastic. And I listen to all the things you guys are improving on the business side, and Patio and Gramps and Sven and what they do. I want to continue to support it. I want to continue to bring this festival to the neighborhood, but it will become drastically hard for us to come back for another round if there is strict compliance on us having to be done by 11 p.m. at sound. So I just come to you guys just hat in hand and say that I'm going to ask for an exception at some point. I don't know where it is, but I at least wanted the bid to know that I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to pull anything that's illegal. I want to be compliant to any permit that goes forward. We just had plans that were made a year ago that I think I wanted you guys to at least be aware of. And, that's it. Yeah.
So,
Can I just add something to what David said?
sure, I'm going to address his comments, and then of course you're welcome to do so as well. So first, thank you for coming today. We're looking forward to you speaking. I think it's really important. Personally speaking, I think what you've done for this neighborhood is a true testament to a great operator that operates by the principles of the laws of the city, is a good neighbor to the business community of the neighborhood. We're not at war, so please don't repeat that.
Sure.
Sorry
about that.
Headlines on newspapers may speak differently, but we're just going through some growing pains. And a lot of the things that we are talking about are really about the everyday conditions. Special events, of course, as you know, can avail themselves of certain exceptions, both administratively and through the city commission, assuming you have the investment of the stakeholders in the neighborhood that you're hosting your event in. Can't speak to the future, but I'm almost certain that everybody probably will share my sentiment that we certainly would love to move forward to having 3 Points be a part of this neighborhood for many, many, many years to come. But I think because you are here today, I think it can be very helpful to our process if you have extra spare time between planning for your event.
Sure.
So you can come to our future committee meetings, just so as you hear us talk about special events in particular, which we haven't really yet addressed as a group, but we've received a lot of feedback from the community about special events to help us as well be better informed about, what it's like on the other side as actual organizer to hear these ideas coming across so we can understand what the impacts are as well to make sure these events continue to thrive in the neighborhood. So I just want to thank you for that. I want to clarify about
Yeah, no, it's more the media situation. I reached out to Sven because I know that he was in here, and I wanted to talk to it because I don't want to be on any side.
Of course.
I want to come in here and provide culture for this community and those opportunities for those musicians and those artists that we promised to them. And I really, truly believe in Wynwood. I've been here since 2013, and anybody that knows me or knows what our initiative of our company is, Wynwood we've been growing with the parallel success of this neighborhood, and we want to continue in compliance with whatever is the law. I just think that there's an interesting moment right now for us that provided a little bit of concern and it scared us a little bit.
No one's proposing music off at 11 p.m.
Okay.
So you mentioned that. I want to clarify that again and again. That's not what anybody has discussed. Actually, we're talking about the music between 3 a.m. and 7, so I think that works for you.
It's an outdoor stage.
Yep. So I think that's where we'll have to talk through attenuation, things like that, but things that I'm sure you're used to already.
For sure.
So yeah.
We had a chance to meet at the office, like we met in tandem, to see how we could help. And one of the options that was out there was the possibility of him submitting an extension, but not till 5 for 3. And I think, you know, that would be like something that would help out tremendously in his case. Maybe it's a new precedent, I don't know, but I just wanted to bring that up, that we had that discussion in order to make sure that he stays in Wynwood and is successful.
Yeah.
And we start planning the next festival in June. Hopefully you guys have an understanding of what the law will be with these new developments, and we will plan to stay in Wynwood around whatever the law is, and we'll plan the bands, contract the bands to be there, but a band like the Strokes or like Robin, they were contracted for a set time. It's a domino effect for the whole festival.
I don't think your festival this year is going to be impacted in any way, but I think starting to plan in June, I think it's optimistic. I think it's almost realistic, hopefully, that we'll already have a working understanding of where we're headed as a community, so we'll have plenty of time to also give input during that process as well. That's wrong. Fuzzy, you wanted to say something?
Obviously, you know, 3 Points is a very important, you know, partner and relationship for us. And when I was mentioning about sound engineers, I'm not even sure if David knows this, but, you know, we reached out to the 3 Points sound folks, you know, in the past several days, and we've been speaking to them about, you know, their sound and how they work with their sound and attenuate their sound, you know, as it relates to the property and outdoor noise. So, you know, to get a good sense, to get an education for how sound operates and travels and those kinds of things, that's one thing that I wanted to mention. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that I think it's important to note that 3 Points has reached out to people in the community. They have a special program running this year where they're offering tickets at, you know, different pricing, and they have different pricing models for people in the community to buy tickets for their festival this year, so that residents in the neighborhood may want to take advantage of that program. So, you know, that's something certainly that, you know, may be helpful for the people who live in the neighborhood or are interested in participating or coming to the festival. So, you know, they're close by, whatever the case may be.
Fantastic. You met with Chris, I believe, already, so you can help get the word out for those special initiatives and programs for locals.
I'll just a quick comment to Leslie. I don't think David should have to worry about sound or any kind of decibels. It's a special permit. Just once a year, it's 3 days. When we talk about a TUP, which is locked in for 3 years, then it's when it comes to complying on a day-to-day basis.
Well, TUPs are only locked in for 1 year, and they have to apply for renewals on a
But you can
yearly
renew it.
basis.
I
But
mean, the last TUP, right, was 3 years. The last TUP that it was at.
right, but the rules have changed. So I
Yeah.
hear, I
Even
agree.
if it's a
I hear
year,
what you're
if
saying.
it's
Guys,
a year,
guys,
every
I don't want
resident.
to get into the crosstalk, but your point is well taken.
David shouldn't have to worry about it.
You're not-
I don't think he'll ever have
Yeah,
an issue coming
I
into
think you're
Wynwood.
going to be very happy, and we want you to be very successful. I think everybody here has obviously conveyed that. So
I appreciate it.
we appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us. I do have one question for you that I think is top of mind now with coronavirus and these concerns about these large events. Obviously, you know that Ultra was recently rescheduled and Coyote was canceled this year. Do you mind letting us know, as a community, it's obviously very concerned about the impacts of these large groups coming in and the health sanitation plan that you may have now enhanced in light of Corona?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just received an updated sanitation plan from our parent company that they're using for all the festivals going forward. We're going to take, you know, this is a day-by-day developing measure or information that comes in. We're going to take our cues from the city, from the CDC, and right now, currently, from the city's office is that 25,000 and above are those impact events like Ultra, like IOJO. We're about 12 to 13,000. Hopefully, if we sell enough tickets, 14,000. This has impacted our ticket sales. You know, with people just kind of seeing what's going on and concern. And we're going to take it day by day, and we're here for the long term. We're not going to ever go against what the state and the city law is with this. So that's first and foremost, just understand that. Right now, we're good to go. In their eyes, everything is okay to go. We will have sanitation spaces when you come in, more stations for people to be clean on the entrance, more stations to be clean all over the place. And we're going to probably submit something to you guys to look at as well, of an overall prevention plan, sanitation plan, that we're going to spend a lot more money on as the more information comes out. But a lot of the stuff is this, into Miami for this. You know, we're about 80% coming from South Florida. There are a lot of a driving-in festival, and some of the concerns of people coming from other countries that Ultra might have had, we don't really have that. And again, our capacity being at 12 to 13, maybe 14,000 is not in that area of concern for the city right now.
Is there anything that the bid is doing right now in preparation for the potential halt or lull in tourism? I mean, our numbers greatly, at least my business, the Museum of Graffiti, is based a lot on tourists from around the country and around the world coming to see what we have built. And it's just entering into slightly terrifying territory with, you know, global corporations putting a travel freeze on their employees. There's no conferences, there's no Ultra. All this stuff is coming to a screeching halt, and I'm wondering, I haven't heard anything at this bid meeting yet that even remotely touches on kind of the elephant in the room here.
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking that. So there's going to be a communication that's going to be sent out. Actually, it was supposed to be sent out yesterday, but it will probably be sent out later today, not tomorrow. It kind of mirrors a lot of the same information that's being put out by the city, by the state and federal officials. You know, we obviously, as a district, have to be very conscious, and every business owner is going to have to take precautions above and beyond what they normally do from a sanitation standpoint. We are already reaching out to vendors. We're exploring the feasibility of the bid, perhaps investing dollars, acquiring the freestanding Purell stations to help with the costs that we know are associated with this type of an outbreak and how to mitigate those concerns. So we hope to have some opportunities to be able to not just push information, but also be a true partner in sharing some of the expenses that come with this. Truth be told, obviously, we can't control the airlines and we can't control public opinion and the sense of caution that's coming out from just about every leader that's speaking before a podium these days about Corona. I can tell you that the GMCDB, which spends, you know, millions upon millions of dollars of promoting tourism here, recently put out a memo yesterday. I'd be happy to forward it to the membership. They're going to be changing their advertising strategy literally right in the middle of their plan. They normally don't do that in the middle of a year. Not because we want to single out people that are more prone perhaps to Corona, but one of the things they've noticed, and I'm sure you've read the reports, is that people that are younger and healthier tend to do better in these environments where Corona is a bit rampant in these communities where there's actually spreading. It's typically the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions. So one of the things the GMCDB is doing proactively is you're going to start to really shift a lot of their resources to market to those demographics to see if they can still bring in those people who perhaps might be a bit more flexible with their decision making as to whether or not they're going to travel, get on a plane, and come down to South Florida. Obviously, we have a very local market as well of people that come down from Kendall and Fort Lauderdale and, you know, Palm Beaches to come to Wynwood. We're also investing in advertising opportunities as well to promote the neighborhood a little bit more aggressively than typically would during the high season. We typically do that during the low season to help, you know, mitigate those roles. So the bid is very much engaged. I mean, we're talking about noise and, you know, all these other things, but we are chewing and walking at the same time and addressing these other concerns. We just were hopeful that we were going to have more robust sets of deliverables that we can provide. But right now, everyone's chasing a very limited supply of Purell. If you go to Publix, if you go to Costco, you're probably not going to find it. We don't have any special access to those products. We are leaning on relationships that we know of people that might, perhaps at higher levels of government or private enterprise, to make them available to the business community. So stay tuned on those initiatives. We do have an emergency preparedness plan that was put together by Manny and by his predecessor after we went through Zika. You know, as a neighborhood, we obviously came together. Things came to a screeching halt here. It was a different moment in time because we were advocating for a travel ban that was placed on Wynwood by the CDC to be removed, and we're holding them accountable to the minimum incubation period that they had set for the neighborhood to push that away so that people could feel safe in coming back. But when we're dealing with a global pandemic, obviously it's not us versus the world. It's pretty much the world kind of trying to figure out what to do next. And things change from day to day, as you just heard. A week from now, maybe the news is positive and things start to kind of cool off. And if they don't, obviously everybody here has to primarily take care of their loved ones, their employees, their businesses, obviously, and the neighborhood. And as an organization, you know, we obviously are very sensitive to that because we all run businesses here as well. So if you have anything that you think we should be doing more of, or things that you come across that you think would be beneficial to share with the community, by all means that applies to anybody in the room, let Mandy know, and we will absolutely be more proactive in pushing that out to the membership.
Sure, I just think we're in a very unique position where we have this type of attention in this room, like such, you know, like-minded people on most issues, you know, giving so much TLC to one particular neighborhood that we have no reason but to be ahead of this. You know, we are really tied up in this TUP thing, the noise issues, when we really need to be forecasting what's coming and plan for the worst. I understand what you're saying about, oh, next week you could hear good news, next week. I think we really just need to be planning for the worst, developing kind of a brainstorming activity for how we can work together to provide incentives to make sure that this is the first neighborhood people start coming back to, so that we are the first on people's list when all of this clears up.
We definitely agree with that. And actually the marketing group has been investing in new advertising and marketing assets that haven't been released. One of them actually you're a part of, as you know, profile on your business, and we haven't released that yet. So we're also mulling what the right time is for that. To your point, maybe it goes on deaf ears if it's released today or tomorrow. It's not going to really move the needle. But maybe right before the storm is kind of, you know, past us, to capture the inbound as soon as people start to feel a lot more open-minded about their travel, you know, decisions and where they want to get together. But please, by all means, if you think there's anything else we can do in the interim, let us know. But I think the advice you're hearing from everyone is applicable to everybody in this neighborhood, no matter, you know, how large or small of an operator you are. You have to have a sanitation plan. You've got to make sure your patrons have access to sanitizer if that's something that's important to you, which I think it is and should be. You have a lot of tourists that come to your museum as well. So I know Wynwood Walls is looking into this as well. So everybody's doing their part. Certainly what we don't want to see happen is to have patient zero from Miami-Dade County come out of Wynwood, because that's obviously not in our best interest or anyone's best interest. And I think every business has to do their individual part. So we will follow up with you soon on general guidelines, and we'll keep you posted if we can make certain assets available to the businesses here. But we are actively looking and researching them. Manny, I don't know if you want to add anything to, you know, what we're working on. If you want to add anything else, maybe.
No, we've been communicating with the police department, the fire department. You got to understand that on their end, there's going to be absences. So they're starting to deal with what percentage of employees do they forecast not to be working, and then how can they provide services to the city in light of, and the same applies to your employees and to everyone else. So it's very flux right now. I know that there were just 8 cases last night in 7 different counties. We're a community state, so people drive from Orlando to Miami every day for work, back and forth. So it's very just volatile, but we are working with all the departments because we're going to have to lean on them, but they just got to figure out now their internal plans. So I saw that the legal department just sent out a notice about a state of emergency, so it's starting to pick up now, and we'll make sure to share it with the neighborhood once these departments finalize their plans.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're not just working on TUPs and noise ordinance, I promise. It's important, but we are multitasking, as evidenced by our agenda. I think Commander Kerr stepped in, then he stepped out.
Yeah, I'll give the brief.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing? My name is Sergeant Valadares. I'm the supervisor of the beat units, usually the officers on blue shirts. The officers have been instructed to address the rowdiness, the occupancy, any crime associated with spring break. I know the city of Miami Beach is shutting down per se at 2 a.m. We expect an influx of visitors after that. Special events are being approved through all departments, so get them in as early as they can. So building, code, fire, police, everyone needs a signature on it now. So if you're going to have a special event, please turn it in as soon as possible. One of the biggest crimes in Wynwood is cell phone thefts. We're working with our undercover details. We're going to get with all the business owners to see if we can use your business. We'll let you know the time and place, so our undercover guys can come in there and we can address that. Our officers assisted the Southeast Quadrant pickup and homeless outreach within the bid. This was done a few days ago in the area of Northwest 1 Avenue and 21st Street. You know, there's a lot of garbage piled up. We've addressed that. The officers in that area are making sure that the sidewalks, we can keep the right of way of the sidewalks and outreach to the homeless. As far as Music Week, the plan has been submitted. We don't anticipate road closures, but we're ready if we need to do them. It's kind of, we're on the fence. We're going to beef up staffing, obviously. We don't know if because of Ultra being delayed, if that's going to impact the people coming to Wynwood, or it might have a reverse effect since Ultra is postponed and most people are going to come here. But we are ready and we're going to be staffed.
Any questions for?
Well, I don't have a question for the community, but what I wanted to know was if we were proceeding with the 5 a.m. extension for Miami Music Week, or how we were handling that.
So we reached out to the administration on that, and because of everything that's going on, they are internally making a decision. It's kind of out of our hands now. And I don't want to alarm anybody, but there's conversations that are happening right this minute between the mayor and the governor and the mayors in the city throughout Miami and the state. So if there's a declaration of emergency that's proclaimed, I think it's safe to assume they're not going to be extending any hours for anything, not only here, anywhere in Miami or in the state for that matter. So I think at this point we've already expressed our position. I think now the electeds and the administration are beginning to weigh bigger issues in particular that have impacts like that, and life safety is obviously at the forefront of that process. So we'll probably get an indication very soon about that. But to the police department's reports, they're ready for anything. So we're kind of on standby at this stage.
That's what I was.
That's where we're at. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sergeant, so I talked to Commander Kerr actually a week ago because exactly like you said, we have this group of pickpockets that's plaguing us and a lot of other venues with cell phone theft, specifically cell phone theft. So we've been requesting if it's possible to get undercover officers to come in our venues and to try to see if we can see who those people are. Commander Kerr told me we'll take care of it, but after I didn't got an answer back, so I wanted to know if we can try to get to it maybe this coming week, because it's really getting, it's getting out of hand with this group. I'm having multiple reports from other places and people as well. Clients, are really getting pissed at us because they say we're not doing anything, but we actually are. We're just waiting as well to see if the police will just help us on that. Because we're putting security agents, to really check people to make sure that if they see something, it's very complicated.
We had a meeting last week about the same thing with our SIS guys, our intelligence team. I used to do the detail, but I have a familiar face at Wynwood now, so it doesn't really work when I'm there. But yes, we are addressing that, and the plan is starting the Music Week, we're going to get a team out there dedicated just for that. We'll look at the numbers, kind of see the heat map of where the most deaths are, and we'll attack from there.
Any other questions for police?
Maybe police, maybe David. Now that Ultra is no longer, that doesn't put the kibosh on Music Week. I mean, what else is happening in Music Week?
Well, we had, we're operating, obviously club space. We had an event called Get Lost that was about 6,000 people. We have the Shelburne pool, and we have the one hotel pool that we're operating on TUPs over there. The Miami Beach has their pool, they want to go forward with their events, so we are okay with our pool parties that are happening there as of right now. Club Space has had nothing but increased ticket sales because of Ultra, which I think might go to your point, is that I think the people are still coming, and they're looking for somewhere to go. So I think that that's something that we might help you. Our data showed right when they Ultra canceled, a lot of things went up on our end. Get Lost brings from international, and the guy that runs it is from Italy, so he did not want to come, he could not come, he canceled his event, but that was going to be in Hialeah, where Hialeah pulled all those permits in that area. I feel like all the DJs are still coming. I feel like the DJs are looking for new places to play. All the people are still coming. Yeah. And one thing I would just say with the cell phone stuff, we had a real issue with that in Club Space as well. The best way that we handled it is that we put metal detectors at the front door on the way out. And we got people that were carrying multiple phones. It's a very simple thing. And then you do it you don't do it every day, but you get them almost in like flashes. And it gets around because it's a unit of like 5 or 6 people that go in there and they're cohesively stealing together.
The problem, like even if you have the person that has a police officer, then how do you justify that you know?
We worked with the area police and they just arrest them on the spot. Or they at least detain them and they start the process. It helped at least with deterring them to come back in if you're getting them on the way out. They don't expect it.
Okay. Well, actually, this week we're going to hand flyers to every customer that comes in just to make them aware that they have to do extra careful with their purse and their big protection.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying too, because they were upset about us for not taking more action.
Absolutely, because he says, you know, we can't reimburse every single cell phone that's been stolen. So we already did 2 or 3, just really out of courtesy because people are crying. And it's like there's someone died, so unfortunately to do something, but there's so much we can do.
Any further questions for the police in the back? Yes.
I just want to say thank you so much for finally starting to crack down on self-defense stuff. So I've had a unique, I guess you would say, relationship with the neighborhood for the last 10 years. I've started out, going to gallery nights and dancing till the wee hours of the morning at Electric Pickle. The neighborhood, because of the Electric Pickle, really has helped create a burgeoning underground independent music scene, not just in Miami, but what that space created was really blossomed across the United States. So it's important as we talk about nightlife and we talk about the neighborhood, we really help preserve some of that tradition of the neighborhood. I've had personally a phone stolen at space that lived probably at least around time at this point over the last 5 years. So I have some stamps of find my iPhone of where I've seen it go. I'm happy to share with you guys and get other people who've had that experience. More importantly, next week is a really important week for the town. It is Music Week, and it's when the entire international music community has their look on Miami, and it's important we do shine. So as we've spent a lot of time talking about noise ordinance, hopefully next week we can not be going overboard with putting any violations out there, because the clubs and the parties that will be going on, it's important that they continue and that we show the rest of the world that we are a world-class city for nightlife and entertainment, and that we show the DJs that are in town from all over the world that we respect them and we want them to be here and want them to keep coming back. So just want you guys to think about that as you're enforcing the noise violations.
So to clarify, did you have a question for the police officer?
Oh, just, I guess, if people get their phone stolen, how do they react to that? Like, what do you do? What's the best?
Come in, make a report. Try to be as specific as possible. Every phone has a INEI number, and with that we can track it. A lot of people just say, hey, I lost a blue or a white iPhone 11. And that's hard. We sit there with the reports, and it's hard to go further than that. So it might take a second to call your cell phone company, asking for as much information as the phone as possible, because that phone turns up later or is used in a crime later. We can track that back to the original location.
And you guys are able to, if somebody says I have an iPhone ping and it's showing up at places they're out, can somebody actually send a police officer to go see what's going on?
We can, however, we're tied with the law. If it's in somebody's house, you can knock, you can ask. Without a warrant, we can't go into somebody's house and retrieve the phone, even if it is pinging.
And just in case anyone's wondering, a couple years ago, we had an event where many iPhones were stolen, but they were all, the police recovered them all, or many of them were recovered, and they were all brought to the police station that's right downtown. I believe it's like 400 Northwest 2nd Avenue. So they were directing us to send people to that police station. So if there's iPhones recovered or cell phones recovered, not necessarily just iPhones recovered, from somewhere in this area, you can direct people to that location if they have a question about something that's stolen or lost or whatever the case may be, because that's where they can retrieve it if it's recovered.
Yeah, we're doing that already because actually we can't really do a report with the officers that we have on site. They actually advise people to go to the downtown office to actually put a complaint or do a report.
Yeah, they had many iPhones that were recovered that particular time, and that's where we were told to direct people, so you could direct people there.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sarge, last time I talked to Commander Perry, he was gonna